2010 C-Class, and it's a car you're seeing back there. And that was the first car I actually wanted in my entire life. Now, there was only one problem. The car cost about $9,900 more dollars than I had in my bank account. Tommy, how much money did you have? About $100, okay? The car cost about $10,000. I did not have money to buy this car. Now, the good thing about me is this, guys. Whenever I encounter a problem, I tend to look for solutions. So I said to myself, why don't I go ahead and find a way to build credit? Why don't I save some money to put a down payment and to actually be able to buy this car? Now, thankfully, that did not work out for me because it would have been a massive headache. These cars are very expensive to maintain, to fix. The parts are crazy, and it's actually not that reliable. Now, you might be thinking, Tommy, what did end up being your first car? Well, a few years later, I actually ended up buying a Toyota Prius. Yes, I changed so much, I sometimes don't even believe it. Shout out to God, okay? But overall, I bought this car for about $9,000. And in reality, I paid cash. And it was nowhere near, not even like a smudge of the money that I actually have. So you might be wondering, Tommy, how do you go from not being able to afford a $10,000 car, not even with credit because you didn't have credit at the time, to actually being able to pay cash for a $9,000 car and not even registering a blimp on your net worth? The answer is that's what I'm going to teach you in this video, because along the way, when I wanted this car and I found solutions to actually get it, the person I became to acquire the knowledge was a person that actually did not want that car, that did not want that liability. So in reality, in this video, I'm going to break everything down. And as always, guys, like this video on top of also subscribe and hit the bell so you get notified, okay? Now, the first lesson that I learned, and by the way, at the end of this video, I will give you the solution. If you want the solution right now, go to the end. I'll put the timestamp right here of what my point actually is, okay? But this story is very important because the first thing I learned that changed my mindset was basically a car. They're like toasters. All toasters toast bread. But there are certain toasters out there that cost like $400, $300. Yeah, it's a true thing, okay? Makes no sense because it's just bread and you toast it. But there are people that buy these touchscreen toasters for $400 and I cannot wrap my head around it. And in reality, to me, a car is more like a commodity. Although a commodity is something you cannot differentiate. If you have silver and I have silver, it's just silver. It's worth the same exact thing if it's basically the same ounces or weight or whatever, okay? But with a car, the way they trick you is that basically cars have brand. They have different impression on people. They have notoriety. They have different ways to customize it. Some go faster, some perform better, some are fancier, whatever, okay? But at the end of the day, the essential idea of having a car is just to go from point A to point B. Whether you're driving a Lamborghini and we're going to McDonald's, I will get there just like you. And you have to go at the same speed as I do because there's a speed limit, okay? So when I figured this stuff out, I was like, why do I want this Mercedes? And the answer was not, Tommy, this car is so much better, so much efficient. No, it wasn't any of those things. It was just because I felt like the car was fancy, it was buying a badge, and in reality, it was going to make me broker than I already was. Now, number two, second lesson that I learned when it came to cars, okay? Buying a new one, buying a used one, whatever you want to buy. You know, there's this formula that not many people know, but it's a way to turn a dollar into 50 cents. And the answer is, if you want to do it, you buy a car. Because every single thing with a motor and wheels, it is going directly on this unstoppable journey to the junkyard, because eventually that thing will lose value, it will become junk, it will become rust, and no one will care. That new car smell you crave right now, you got into the dealership, you got in the car, you're like, I wish I had this car. A few days later, after you have a whole bunch of candy stains everywhere, gum on the bottom of the shoe, whatever, I don't know what I'm saying. But the point is that new smell, that feeling of a new car, it goes away very fast, and all that's left is the resentment of having this crazy payment on you. Now, what I learned is basically that cars depreciate, and in the first year, you can expect to lose like 10 to 20% of your money. In the first 5 years, you can expect to lose between 40 to sometimes even 60% of your money. That's a lot of money. So, meaning that whatever money you put into this car, you're going to lose it. It's exactly how you turn a dollar into 50 cents or even less. And when I figured it out, it made absolutely no sense for me to buy a vehicle, especially new, if I'm going to lose and pay upfront for all of these costs. Now, number three was, I learned that our car was going to steal a lot of my cash flow. You see, because the problem wasn't that I couldn't afford this car. I mean, it was, okay? I couldn't afford it at all. But the big problem was, even if I got credit, which, by the way, most people that clicked on this video, the answer is not, I don't have credit and I can't afford this car. No, the answer is, I can't afford this car, but I can afford the payments. The problem is I just don't have credit to show them I can afford this payment. And that is actually an amazing thing. Don't worry, in this video, I'll tell you a way to build credit too. But overall, it's a great problem to have because what most people don't realize that if you are able to buy a car, let's say you buy a nice car, fancy car, and you're paying $500 a month, you know, $500 for a 5-year car payment, that's going to be around $30,000 at the end of those 5 years. But those $30,000 at the end of the 5 years, you have an asset that's only worth about half. So you turn $30,000 into $15,000, just like that, okay? And by the time the 5 years come, the car stinks. It's not the same thing, and you probably want to change it because the average person changes cars every 5 years like an idiot. And that is not what you want to do. That's how they catch you. And you want to avoid that, okay? So what I mean is this. You grab your cash flow and you're basically extinguishing it to buy this asset that's going to deteriorate and turn your money into less money. However, if you had just invested that money, let's say at 12%, at the end of those 5 years, you would have somewhere about, I got the math right here because I like exact numbers. At the end of those 5 years, you would have about $42,000. And then 15 years later, you would have a little bit over $233,000 if you invested that money into a Roth IRA. Now, if you just basically bought that car, you turn 30K into 15K. 15 years later, you turn whatever you put into it to basically dust. The money is gone, okay? Now, it's not that bad because at the end of the day, most of us, depending on where you live, you do need a car. So I'm not here saying never buy a car. Never buy something that deteriorates because at the end of the day, not every decision you make is going to be an investment one. You can't always think about money because some decisions you just got to take and take an L. An L. I'm sorry, okay? I'm on my gangster mode right now. But overall, what this means is, Tommy, so what is the actual solution here, all right? Solution is, when you're going to buy a car, you want to buy a used vehicle. And here's why. Because when you buy a used vehicle and you let the other person pay upfront for the cost of owning a new vehicle, you basically get to have a car for less than it's basically worth. Because if you buy a car for $30,000, right, and that person bought it and they basically had it for 5 years, now it's worth $15,000, and then you buy it, guess what? You have a $30,000 car that you just bought for $15,000. If you have a Toyota, those cars will continue to run forever, and that's the cool thing. Now, there's also something else, okay? When you look at the depreciation curve on a car, which, by the way, sounds fancy, it's not that fancy. It basically just means you have a little graph that shows you how the car loses value. It looks like this, okay? Year one is up here, and then you have like the little bottom things here, right? So this is the years, and this is, what is it? No, this is the money on this side, okay? Money's here, years is here. On the first year, it looks like this, whoopity, right? Because it just goes down like crazy. It's stupid, okay? The first 5 years, like, what? But then after that, it starts to kind of just like slim down and go down lower and lower and lower. But meaning when you buy a car that's like 5 years, 7 years old, depreciation slows down a lot. So it basically means you actually sustain a lot of your value, a lot of your money in this car. So the real savings comes along when you buy a used car and you keep it for a long time. So obviously, the most important factors here are you buy a used car, you buy a reliable used car. You don't buy a car based on brand, on notoriety. Oh, Tommy, I want people to look at me differently because I want to associate. Or I don't care about this stuff, okay? Buy a reliable car. And right now, Toyotas, Hondas, and Mazdas are the most reliable ones. Don't believe me? Go to JD Powers. That's basically a website that shows you, for example, the best cars out there. They have ratings, reviews, and you compare, and you find out what is actually best. Now, if you're wondering, Tommy, does this mean, for example, what if I don't have the cash to buy a car in cash, okay? The answer is, that's what I recommend, that you actually buy a car in cash. Now, what this means is, there's something called delayed gratification. There was this great story. Great experiments, okay? You had two kids. You gave one, for example, a marshmallow, another one also a marshmallow. And you said, hey, if you wait until I get back, I'm going to give you another marshmallow. But if you don't wait, you don't get anything. When the entire person left, One of the kids ate it, the other one didn't. They waited, they got a marshmallow, and when they tracked those kids later in the future, they showed that the person, the kid that waited for the marshmallow, basically ended up better in life. Okay, because you don't just want to get what you want when you want it, but it doesn't benefit you at the time because you're broke. When you're broke, you're broke, and there are things you just can't do. There's a lot of things I wanted to do when I was broke, and I couldn't do it because it would have actually been stupid for me to do it, and it would put me even in a deeper hole. So the point is this, okay? If you have a dream to own a very nice car, which is maybe like a $10,000, $50,000 car, right? That's fine. We all have those dreams. But in reality, if all you can afford right now is $1,000 car, a $500 car, a $5,000 car, the answer is you buy that right now. And whatever those payments would have been that you're saying, hey, I can afford the payments, just keep affording the payments, send it to your savings accounts, and then after 1 to 2 years, you grab all that money and you buy the car you actually want. You sell the other one to actually help you for that car, and then you have the car you actually want, but you waited. You're not in debt. You're not robbing of your cash flow. You can invest your money, and you don't have to worry about all the stress. That is my recommendation. You pay cash, you buy what you can afford, you buy used. Now, there's something I want to warn you about. I want to warn you about people fall for this all the time. Tell me, what about safety? What about I deserve this? Tell me, what about I just want something that's reliable? The answer is, okay, a new car comes out every single year. So if you believe that, for example, the newest car is the most reliable car, it's all BS. It's all marketing, okay? At the end of the day, I'm being honest, I'm being real with you, okay? So buying a car that's 7 years old, it